Hi, my name is Mike and I'm here to talk today about JavaScript closures. Closures are part of a system of functional programming in JavaScript that includes immutable data, closures, first-class functions, and it leads to maintainability and modularity and referential transparency, which all sort of go together to make functional programming. It is quite an in-depth subject, and I won't cover it all in one hit. And in fact, I'm just going to give you an overview of closures and how they work. I'm not going to do a deep dive on that because that would take too much time. Okay, so let's get started with some code. It's usually the best place to talk about how things work. So here we go. We have a small app made by Create React App in a tool called StackBlitz, which is similar to Visual Studio Code, and it means that you can switch quite simply between the desktop and the web. So let's have a look at the components of this. So here we have a component called myComponent, and this is a pure functional component. And the name suggests functional component, that actually the component is a JavaScript function. And this is part of one of the differences of JavaScript and functional programming, in that functions can be passed around as parameters. So you have variables and you also have functions. So functions can be variables themselves. So let's have a look at this. At the outer level, we've got this times variable, which is at the global level or the outer level. So it's declared outside myComponent. Inside it, we've got this state variable called label. And the idea is that that label variable is internal to myComponent, so you can't access it from outside. And by the same token, this local button is actually contained within the myComponent. So this is an example, and that's actually a function itself. So that's an example of a function within a function. And as you can see, it's working already. It says click me so the label is set to click me as its default value. And then the local button renders that label. And that appears on the screen. It says click me, but nothing happens at the moment because I haven't declared a handler for it. So if I change this to be click me again, you see that will update. So basically that's taking that initial value, and I'll just change it to be click me. Fair enough. So to demonstrate how the scoping of variables works, I'm going to take this code, the local button, which refers to label, which is internal to the component, and I'm going to cut it from there, and I'm going to declare it out here. And you see what happens is it complains that label is not defined. So label is not within the scope. So this click me label value is not being passed through here. I can fix the problem by saying set label or let label equals hello, and you'll see that the button then renders. So the functional component local button is declared outside, and as long as I satisfy its requirements, then it will render. But that's not really the point of this. The point is that this line of code, the reference to label, works if it's within the component itself. So that's a special feature in JavaScript, that a variable referenced within a function has access to the parent function, which is not normal. Most languages don't do that. And it's sort of a convenience thing for JavaScript, but it's particularly useful in callbacks, because callbacks execute at some time later, and they will usually need access to things like these state variables in order to do their calculations. So let's have a look at an example of this. So let's say that we're going to attach an onClick handler to the button, and we're going to say, let's just call it clicked. And then we'll declare a variable here, which is an actual, we'll say const clicked and we'll make that a function as well. We'll say it's a function, and what it's going to do is going to call setLabel, and it's going to give it a new string. So let's say that we put the string, you have clicked me, and we'll put in the number of times. Need to put braces around that. And then when we click it, you'll see that it'll say you've clicked me 0. In fact, I'll put the word on times there. But of course the number isn't incrementing. So what we need to do in here is to say times equals times plus 1. And then it should work that every time we click it, then it will increment. So you see that in this code, we're actually referencing a top-level variable and the label. So we're actually setting this label value within this code. And here's another example of why you need these closures to work this way, because this is a function in itself. And if you didn't have access to this, then you'd have to work out some way of passing things in, and it becomes quite complicated to do that. So it means that things work quite nicely. You can write the code and it has access to parents, like this one has access to label, this one has access to setLabel, and so on. Now, strictly speaking, I should have declared times as being a local variable, but I wanted to show you how that works. Okay, so you see that all works nicely. Hopefully that is enough of an explanation for you to get an idea of what closures do.